You are listening to the Eskimo Empire Podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Empire. It's the Eskimo Empire Podcast. Welcome back to the Turf District for the Eskimo Empire Podcast, brought to you, of course, by United Construction Company. Check out all the great builds they do at unitedconstruction.ca. And if you're a commercial estimator, they are looking for one right now, so you can check out the website and apply to be part of that great team. Check out all of our links while you're on there at the same time. You can find us at eskempire.ca. All of our social media is on there as well. My name is Andrew, and joining me, of course, in the Turf District, easy for me to say, is super fan Mike. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not a commercial. I'm only an amateur estimator.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just sort of make stuff up.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So for some reason they don't hire me.
You should probably still apply. Let's just see what Jeremy says.
See what the heck.
Sure. Yeah. You know, just for fun and games. Yeah.
It's about yay big.
That's right.
My estimation.
Yay big.
Yay big.
That's what I'm going to say for everything.
They're really good about that in construction. Yeah. It's close. You're close enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. No Commissioner Kayla this evening, as she is catching up on some schoolwork, unfortunately. But we missed her. But we did get to hang out with her on Friday because we had a little Empire Pod field trip.
We went to the Oil Kings
game. I still got to say, I mean, they're getting how to pump up a crowd and play
appeal
to the
to
kids.
Young fans and families.
I had a great time.
Yeah, I love going to the Oil Kings games. You're going to see a bunch of kids that are playing because they just love to play because they're not getting paid.
No.
Or certainly not very much.
No.
And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, being a kid from Medicine Hat, it's always good to see my team play.
And lose.
Okay. It wasn't necessarily, this has not been their year.
No.
It was much better last year, and but you never know. They can still make the playoffs, and anything can happen. It's the second season.
Sure. Yeah, you could. That's always a possibility.
Yeah, let's go with that.
All right. Well, if you haven't already, I do want to give everybody a heads up to go back and check out my interview with Trevor Harris from last week.
That was fun.
Fantastic interview. Great guy to talk to. Very excited to have him on, and hopefully talk to him more during the season. He did actually say, he wants to come on. Wasn't it with him and Greg Ellingson and debate sports? So we might have a little bit of fun with that. Actually, tons of really good free agency podcasts throughout the Canadian Football Podcast Network. So catch up on all of those. I've had a really good time listening to a bunch of people and talking about how their team did. Which has been very, very interesting. And also the BC Lions Den actually put out Randy's road trip as well.
Listen to that. It was great.
Yeah, we'll have some chatting about that in a short while.
Yeah, it's especially considering, I'm not sure why, but the Esks have decided they're going to do it at a Boston Pizza this time.
Right.
Last year it was at the stadium. They had the big room. There's tons of tables, so lots of people could come. This time it's a much more intimate venue.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to create that sort of, this is the ticket. You got to be there. So, if our name isn't drawn, then at least you can listen to the BC Lions version and hear what he has to say. And some really good points.
And hopefully we'll get the audio again this year to be able to put it out. But because I unfortunately won't be there because I'm going to be spending all of my money in Vegas.
Apparently you just don't like to go to Randy's road trip.
I would love to.
Oh, okay.
His timing is
fire trucker.
There's nothing I can do about that. That's just the way it is. But one of these days he'll be down here. We'll chat with him. Our guest is waiting, and we should bring him in because, my goodness, we've got a lot to talk about. Third appearance on the show. If you haven't already checked out the Periscope with the already amazing stories, it is one of our favorite storytellers. It's one and only Dave Jamieson. How you doing?
It's great to be back in Turf District. I love this room. I feel like I could hang out here for a long time. You'd get tired of my stories, but I would. I'd empty that fridge. I'd empty that fridge, and I'd finish off the Timbits. But at the end of it, we'd have have some laughs.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we sure would.
No, it's outstanding. That was hands down one of our better Periscopes.
Oh, no question.
Lots of people saying this is probably the longest I've watched Periscope, but I love every minute, so that's wonderful. How's radio life at TSN 1260 these days?
It's going well. They keep paying me and allowing me back in the building, so I continue to fool people. But no, I may have said this before. I mean, I took 18 years away from the industry, so to come back to radio, and I won't bore you with the long details of my career, but I started out in news at CKNW in Vancouver. I was a news guy. I wanted to be, a reporter, which I was, and I got a break to do a sports talk show out there called Sports Talk with Dan Russell, and Dan was really the guru of sports talk on the West Coast, at least in Canada. And so he would go on holiday for 3 or 4 weeks a year, and I got to come, take a busman's holiday from doing news, and it was, death and destruction and cops and the courthouse and all that stuff. And then I got to go and play. And I got to go and do his show, which was down at the old Expo site. We used to have a studio down in downtown in Falls Creek. And so that's where I got into doing sports. And so fast forward, I become the program director of 630 Ched. I was the first, I didn't start the station, but I was the first guy brought in to be the program director. So for a time I was Brian Hall's boss, or as much as you can be the boss of that guy. but was there when they got the Oilers, and obviously doing the Eskimos. We hit the Trappers. We even ran the Grizzlies when I was there, the Vancouver Grizzlies. Yeah. And so, and then I went to the Eskimos, and my first season was in 1998. So, fast forward a million years, and then I had this opportunity to get back into it with TSN, and they said, "Hey, you did it, and you used to be on air in Vancouver, and could you do it again and come out and basically try out?" And so they liked me enough, and I got the gig, and here we are 5 years and counting, and it's been a lot of fun, and awesome. So it's been really great. A long way to say it's going really well.
Good, that's okay.
Sorry,
but it's very entertaining, and for us on a number, obviously when you talk football, we love to catch those parts, but you do cover obviously a lot of Oilers and a lot of those things that are in town.
Sometimes too much, to be quite honest with you. And that's the nature of the beast in this city, and dare I say, in Toronto, obviously it's Leaf-centric, but there you've got the Raptors and the Blue Jays, and so, but, we try, at least on my show, and remember, we're going up against a very good show and a very worthy competitor and a friend of mine, Bob Stauffer, so I can't counterpunch on the hockey knowledge with Bob, but I can go other places he can't.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And I have the latitude to go, and so I like to graze at the sports buffet, as I like to say. So I'm happy, I'll talk to Dennis Shapovalov for 8 minutes and have, because tennis is my deep love. I used to play competitively in Vancouver when I lived there, and so I really, it's the sport, it's my go-to, as much as I love football and the other stuff. But in that, we just try and hopefully the listeners will follow us and hang in, and if you don't like tennis, don't worry, we're going to get to Trevor Harris, and then we'll get to Darnell Nurse. We'll get there. Just hang tough, right?
That's okay. It's a good ride. It's always a good ride.
It's such a great listen, and that's what I love, is being able to hear about whether it's curling, whether it's tennis, as you say, whether it's soccer, whatever. There's at least something for everybody, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. Let's dive into some Esks news, because my goodness, we have lots to talk about.
We do.
And I have lots of things that I want to ask you about. So, first one, Len Rhodes has his last day, February the 20th. His last act, I guess, or the last thing that he gets to do, was the 50-50 donation this year to amateur football, which, obviously has been going up every year.
Yeah, right.
And the big check this year totaled $845,000. It's a great program.
Yes.
But I just, I love seeing that every year. I love seeing that going out to the junior programs. I have a son that's in the junior program, so I love that too. But I just think this is a great thing, and I love how people who go to the games get behind it.
The fans, and Len, and I think he acknowledged as much, he is standing there with a really big check and handing it out, and there's lots of applause for him and for the club, and there should be. But really, at the end of it, it's the fans that reach into their pockets and make those, and through the 50-50. You go to an Eskimo game, And I think a fairly regular occurrence, they will have higher 50-50s in NFL games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, I know that there may be some weird quirk in this crazy city of ours. We like things like meat draws and 50-50s. and you know what I'm saying?
Those?
You know, what? Wow, and I can win a flat screen? I mean, where do I sign? Like, but that's Edmonton. And God, like, it's remarkable. Like, well before you had a 50-50 system like they've got now, which is just brilliant. I went to a game in Hamilton and the crowd booed because the 50-50 winner, now remember, it's I've or win, they got $4,000 and the crowd like turned on the winner. And it was like, whoa, like $4,000? Like in Edmonton, that wouldn't even cause you to leave your seat to go get the check. And Eskimo fans like, where is my $200,000? Yeah, right? Exactly. And, good on them. I mean, they reach in their pockets and they do great stuff. But to your point about the support for the junior programs, that has, it's always been there, but now it's like that on steroids. Like, it's unbelievable what they do now, and it's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the best way to grow the game and to grow more fans.
This is the future players from 20 years from now.
Exactly.
10 years from now.
And the future guys that want to come and watch a game because they're playing it. And now they want to get in and watch. Like, there's a reason that my 11-year-old likes going to games is because he now wants to watch and kind of learn a little bit about it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's also a reason that my 9-year-old wants to go to a game because he loves tailgating.
Yes.
I think it's the greatest thing ever. I get to just eat crappy food and then I get to go in and at the end of the game I get to run around on the field and people throw footballs. Like, that's his draw. So
one of the many things about football that are really quite wonderful is that you play one game a week. Mm-hmm. And it allows you to build anticipation for that next game, and also allows you with the things like tailgating and, dare I say, the podcast and all the other stuff. You're able to kind of germinate and develop and grow a community.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the other, NBA and NHL, the games are just coming, they're pummeling you with how often you have to engage with the sport or the brand.
Right.
And with football, because of the pace that it goes at, and I think it allows it to breathe a little bit, and also things like this and the tailgating and the partying. I think it's really quite cool, I guess is the best way I can describe it.
Well, I think the other part of it is too, is that it gives you a whole week to either celebrate or calm yourself down and find the positives before the next game.
Well,
sometimes you got to look a little hard, but
I've dug deep some weeks.
We
but,
certainly have. That's why we have the Esks history moment.
Don't forget, guys, I was there for 2006.
I'm sorry.
So I know a fair bit about the calming yourself down, and I didn't play the games. I can't even imagine what that was like for them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we talked about Len Rhodes a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do you have some idea on possible president candidates? Because obviously, having been in there before, I would assume you have a little bit of a different perspective on what the president does and how...
what we need for that role.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, a couple of... look, I threw the name out... When the release came out that Len Rhodes was not going to come back for his final year, it wasn't going to fulfill that final year of his contract, immediately my mind goes to Sean Fleming.
Okay, fair enough.
For obvious reasons. Yes, he played very well. But he is now a vice president of PricewaterhouseCoopers. He has serious business chops. Okay,
yes.
This is a guy that can read a P&L. He knows. What he does. Yes. Well, what he does. As part of his job, at least it may not be now. He would go in and the company would go in and run businesses that found themselves in some disrepair. Nice. Let's say. So he knows where the bones are buried in business. And he knows how to correct that, and so from a business acumen side, he would, for me, check a lot of boxes. Also, very articulate, well spoken. I know this may sound like, why does that matter? Look, to be telegenic and to be able to go on camera and be on one level a face of a franchise is important, and how you comport yourself in television interviews. Are you a good spokesperson for the organization? He is that. There are other, obviously, Dwayne Vanneau's name comes up a lot, and it should, right? Yeah. Because not only the work he's done with Grey Cup and Tour Alberta, and he launched the Edmonton Rush and so on and so forth, he's a guy, Edmonton likes and this is a compliment, but also it's something I think that the person coming in, whoever that he or she may be, Edmonton doesn't always take well to the outsider.
Right.
Yes.
And that's not entirely unique. Lots of cities are that way, or communities. They like their own, and okay, I get that. But so my only thing is that I would caution, don't forget, the Eskimos are community owned.
Yes.
Right.
And I think that demands a different touch from that person in that, where if private ownership you may not have to be as responsive to fans. You may not have to be as responsive and as engaged with all of the community. And the Eskimos are. And I'm not suggesting that Len Rhodes wasn't. That's not the case at all.
No.
But, I think that, they are going to use a search firm, at least so I'm led to believe, to fill this vacancy. It's going to come down to the board to really clearly articulate what they're looking for from the candidate.
Right.
What does the board think's needed? After Rick Lawlisher left, and there was illness in there, but then, it was decided that he was going to move on, or retire, I should say, the board felt very strongly, and I disagreed at the time, and my opinion didn't matter, but I'll say it now. They felt they needed a marketing person. And I remember board members, names I can't remember now, saying, I go out and I see all these kids in these NFL jerseys. And I'm like, yes, and your point is? So they felt that someone needed, that whoever was the president needed to be responsive and drive that part of the business. Well, again, this isn't entirely indicative of Len's work. I didn't see much difference in the way the Eskimos presented themselves. In fact, I saw less of a visible presence in terms of billboards and all the other things that, those are sort of metrics, if you will. And I get it. A lot of this lives online now, but I think you have to have both. Okay?
Right.
If I may, and for those who think that the world does revolve around our smartphones and our so on and so forth, I get that, and it does. It largely does, but you have to hit all of that.
Right.
Well,
I mean, this is a city of over 1 million people now. Never assume, and we know how different Edmonton is now, never assume that people know who you are. And I think that sometimes they did that. It's game day. No. I'm out in the media now, and I know the Eskimos, obviously, so I'm going to be hyper alert to everything that they are doing when they play. It's my job. But you can't hit the people enough with, when are you playing? What are you doing? If it's Busta Rhymes, so be it. But you know what I'm saying? You got to get in their faces.
Yeah, and it has to be, you want to make it accessible. It's got to be, you see it, and you want to be part of it.
Right.
It's got to be both.
But I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people that we know that don't know who the Oilers are.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have billboards all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
So if somebody with that kind of presence still puts billboards out, then people that are smaller definitely need to be putting billboards out.
And I'm using that, but you know where I'm saying.
yeah.
Like it's
example,
all, you're hitting all of the touch points. Are you taking your quarterback in and doing morning shows 3 days out before the home game? And I didn't see a lot of that. Right. And this is not old guy looking back and sour guy. They had different methodology, different tactics, but you've got to do all of that. I know that because I used to. And I mean, the guy I replaced, Alan Watt, was famous for that. He's like, oh, great. Okay, Alan, when I was at Ched, okay, who you got this morning? Okay, it's Chris Vargas and Darren Flutie coming in to do the morning show with Gord Whitehead and Brian Hall and Chris Burkholder. But there they were at 7 a.m. walking through our door, two sleepy football players and Alan Watt.
Wow.
But they're also doing radio advertising. I mean, they were hitting all of it. And I mean, yeah, it's a grind.
TV commercials.
TV, I mean,
I don't see those anymore.
Right?
You see them on TSN,
but
yeah.
Yeah, but
not as often. I
but
agree.
on a local TV,
no. So look, that goes to tactics. That goes. I mean, I'm getting a little too granular. That's all tactics about the marketing. But anyhow, they felt they needed somebody that was really that was going to make that a focus. And my response was, "Are you telling me we didn't before?"
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm sorry, we got national coverage for that billboard we took out about the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Exactly.
About, they don't know, they can't count to 13 on the field or 12, whatever it was. We've won 13 Grey Cups.
Yeah.
And, that thing. No, we marketed. it's just, I guess, perception, and they felt like they needed a brand guy, and they went out and did some really good things. But so I don't know what they need next. I don't know what the vision for the franchise is in terms of. The football will be the football. Like, Brock Sunderland's done his job. Moss will do his, or, we'll see how that plays out. But what is the rest of it? What's that all about?
Yeah.
Got to connect the people to the team, the brand.
Yeah, and don't assume because you've been here since 1949 that it's still always... I mean, look, the three of us are. I'm not in my green, but you guys, like, we're sold.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a lot of people out there that you need to. Hello, we are the Edmonton Eskimos, and we play football. Oh, what's that? And you got to start that process all over again.
That's very true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on because you mentioned Brock Sunderland and his moves and things. So the Eskimos this last week, they signed international linebacker DJ Calhoun, which I think is how you say that. Yeah. Did have a video of his highlights, which of course I know they take the best ones, but
of course they do.
Man, oh man, that he's just out to hit people on the field. Like he had some crushing hits. So I'm excited to see him out on the field. We also signed quarterback Logan Kilgore, who of course was with the Argos before.
Right. Didn't he have a taste in Saskatchewan too for a bit?
I believe so.
I mean,
yes,
with Ottawa too.
Yeah. And Ottawa, I think, was where the main connection ended up. So now we've got Harris and
hasn't
O'Brien
played in a couple of years, but we'll see
how that pans out. And also national defensive lineman Andrew Marshall, which I mean we do have to have some nationals on that defensive line to work out. Although we love Kwaku and Milk Truck, it's good to have other options to see how things are going. Last thing is that we did release Darius Allen. Now I believe that is the last of the Darii. If you can believe
it is for now.
Can you believe it?
Ladarius
I cannot
Perkins,
believe
Bowman.
So it was going to happen. Also, Johnny Adams goes to the retired list, which I guess means Orange and Colquhoun probably are on the corners at this particular moment. That's where they're penciled in. So we better hope that they're getting better on that. So
and we have to hope that certainly in the Colquhoun side of things, he needs to stay healthy.
Absolutely.
This is somebody there's on and off that IR the last year. We do have Godfrey Onyeka, who was a draft pick last year. He's had a full year under his belt now. He's drawn in and played quite a few reps.
He's a great athlete.
He is.
He is. I know that's a little, sort of cliche. They're all great athletes, but when you say that about guys at certain positions, you know what we're saying, right?
Yep,
They've got the length, they've got the ability, the range, and a willingness to go and get into tough areas
and learn it, right?
Yeah, and learn it. Yes,
learn it at this level.
Right.
I think he. That's one of the biggest things in talking to him was that he was ready to learn.
Yep.
How do we do
and
this,
adjust to that speed?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Dave, these are some of the moves. What did you think overall? We talked a bit about it on Periscope, but what did you think overall of Brock Sunderland's moves at free agency? We have the biggest quarterback we've had in a while moving out, and Brock goes out and blows everyone away.
It's a statement. Listen, he had, and I'm sure he'll be very quick to say it's a we, not a he. But you're the GM, you own this. He had an outstanding day. I called it a statement day on my radio show, and I'll say it again. That's the kind of stuff that. And listen, I didn't know. I knew the name Brock Sunderland when he came in here from Ottawa, but I didn't know the body of work. I don't, because it wasn't in that role there. So I don't know what he's done, and that's how we sort of judge these men. And is that, okay, well, what did he do at Team X? He took him to a championship, or he drafted this guy, or so I really didn't know. He's a bit of a blank slate.
Yeah.
But obviously I knew he had the football pedigree and he'd been in the NFL and so on and so forth. This is not a criticism as much as it just, he took a go slow. He came in and I'm sure he bristled at that's Ed's team, but it just through the passage of time, people leaving and stuff. Now, then he starts to put his imprint on it. Well, this very clearly, is now his team.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we're going to see in the fullest form. And last year was his team too. I mean, but this,
but not completely yet.
Not completely.
Like,
so
yeah, we still had a lot of those
gone now.
Yeah. So now the cleanse has happened. Some of it, by design, and some of it, obviously, by the nature of the business with the free agency. So now now we're going to see, what does a Brock Sunderland football team look like? Like, because I knew Ed from both, my time with him, I knew what a Ed Hervey football team was going to look like. Like, once he got all of the stuff out from the Cavus era and the Eric Tillman and all that stuff, once he stripped it down to the hardwood, which is kind of what he did.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew what that was going to look like once he got it up and running. And the thing about football, don't tell this to Cleveland Browns fans, you can get good pretty quickly. You can.
Especially in the CFL.
You can in the CFL. Yeah. I mean, and sometimes even NFL teams can kind of pivot. I mean, not, again, see Cleveland or Detroit or any of those.
Fair, they were better last year.
Oh, sure. Yes, they were.
It's getting there.
Yeah, but the bar was set pretty low.
Yeah,
but you're right. In the CFL, Mike, you can sort of snap your fingers. You got to be smart. You got to have some luck, and you got to have some smarts up here, and you can affect the course of the team's fortunes pretty quickly. And I'm fascinated to see this team. I really am. I'm a believer in Trevor Harris, and I'm going to like to see him kind of. Okay, let's go, man. This is yours. There's no Henry. There's no shadow of Burris here.
There's no Ricky.
There's no nothing. Yeah. It's you. And let's go. And he's got a toolbox there, and he's got Ellingson. That's got to be reassuring. They can speak the same language right out of the gate.
Survey blocking his blind side.
I was just going to say that to me was the coup of free agency, was getting Sir Vincent Rogers to cover, because then your quarterback feels that much more confident of not. Your blind side is basically covered. I mean, the stats I think that Derek Taylor put out of 18 games, there was 9 pressures or something off of the Sir Vincent
for
side.
best in the league. Yeah.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like, that's what that
Derek
line
Dennis,
needed, right? Yeah, absolutely, what that line needed.
And it's further to your point. You talked about teams being able to turn around so quick. The last time we saw a team turn around that big of a difference to me was Ottawa 2014 to 2015.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking a 2-16 team that in their second year goes to the Grey Cup. And that offseason, they did the same thing. They went to free agency and they grabbed a lot of players. Mm-hmm. They got those 4 receivers, where they had Ernest Jackson, they got Greg Ellingson from Hamilton.
Did they have Chris Williams too?
They got Chris Williams, and they got Sinopoli. So they got all 4, and they loaded up all over the place in free agency, and everyone said, oh, well, you're just buying these players, but that never works, and it got them to the Grey Cup.
Right.
I don't know how big of a part was Desjardins, how big of a part was Sunderland and the rest of his team, but it certainly seems like something that he's familiar with.
Oh, sure.
And to me, I mean, being able to save that $200,000 on Mike Riley between Harris' salary and what Riley was offered.
That is really important, and people
massive.
Listen, I'm thrilled that guys like Mike Riley are that the salaries, at least for the quarterbacks, I hope they all come up, but that's for another time. But that $200K there now allows him, Brock Sunderland, and he's clearly done that, to go out and address some specific needs. Yep. It scares me a little bit in the CFL with so much money apportioned to one guy. Like, yes, Mike Riley is great. I just, it just seems like a lot of money to tie up on one position.
Yeah, I can see that, absolutely. Well, and we haven't. I mean, we kind of said, but we haven't really said too, is that it's great we got all these guys in. Now, can they all play together?
Yep.
Like, can they gel, and can Moss then take them and make them a team? Exactly.
Oh, sure,
like each coordinator, of course, as well. But can they together make this bigger than the sum of its parts, or is it just they're all good players?
Great, right? When you got 3 people from Ottawa on the offense.
Absolutely.
You got 2 people in the linebacking core from Hamilton. So these guys that are used to working side by side.
And Brock Sunderland, you go out and get the groceries. Now, Moss...
you have to cook the dinner.
Now you have to make the dinner. And Brock Sunderland, and I know there's more moves to come, obviously, but he's done his job.
Got some great ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some amazing ingredients. Yes. Now you mentioned it, so I want to go right into this.
Sure.
The CBA negotiations are supposed to start March 11th and 12th in Toronto. I think this is obviously a massive thing. As fans, we're all waiting for this to happen and to get this lockdown and get it done. I think a lot of people right now were kind of team CFLPA because they kind of want better for the players.
Yes.
They want that bottom level raised up.
And I'm on that team, by the way. And for transparency, I hosted the CFLPA news conference here during Grey Cup. I was approached, and I have a relationship with Brian Ramsey. I knew Jeff Keeping professionally, but so I wanted to say that and get that on the record. Yes, I want all of it to work, but I knew, because I worked with so many players, I want, and I think this is a big part of this discussion that we're going to get into. I mean, yes, everyone should make a lot more than they do, or at least some, make more than they currently do, but I want them to be healthy, and I want every effort made to ensure that those things are looked after.
Absolutely. And that was going to be what I was just going to say, was that I think the most important point for me is to get that health insurance sorted out, or however they're going to do to make sure that the players have some coverage if there's a problem. I think that's a huge issue that they need to kind of look at trying to tackle. I think that's going to be a difficult one for both sides.
Of course.
And as the CFL goes ahead and is growing in the CFL 2.0 that I want to talk about in a second, but as they are doing that, maybe the money isn't actually the biggest issue. Maybe the issue is actually the safety and how they do that.
I think you're right. Like, look, the pie isn't, at least at this point, getting any larger. Hence Randy Ambrosie's vision for CFL 2.0. Yes, you want to go to Italy and Germany and Mexico and all these things, and there may be some players out there that you can tap into and have in the CFL. But really, it's to get eyeballs.
Yep, sure.
Eyeballs on this league, which you then can monetize into a television deal.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It's noble to think that we'll find our next deep threat in Italy or wherever. But
Australia.
That's
Mexico.
But more importantly,
we did draft a receiver,
right? Because it's kind of, I'll never say tapped out here. You'd still like to make some more inroads down south, but Canada's only got so much bandwidth in terms of they may add another franchise. And again, I throw everyone wants the Atlantic Schooners, but it's been pretty quiet
lately.
Pretty quiet.
Yeah, it has been. Now there's a lot of work still to be done as far as getting a field and everything out there.
Randy will be there soon.
But Randy will be there on his road trip, and they are doing Touchdown Atlantic. And I think, again, which is, I think that's great. And I think there's an ability to try and help to build things out there. So I'm not real worried about it yet. I think it's farther down the road than what a lot of us
2020.
hope to. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But back to the CFLPA stuff. I think you're absolutely correct. I think that it is more to the, I'll call it quality of life of players. Yes, the money wouldn't it be great if that first contract, that rookie contract, there's more money there. All of that's great, and they'd love to get there. But I think the more pressing issues are those things, so you don't have the Jonathan Hefney situation.
Exactly.
Right. And more like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Superfan, what's your, if you had to just take a guess, do you think this get solved quickly? Do you think this is going to take a while? What do you think?
Well, I've said in previous shows that if you hearken back to 2010, you took a look at 2007, when they've had these negotiations before, they don't get settled in March. They get settled closer to the season. And we haven't had it where a season, certainly not recently, where a season's been pushed back at all,
right,
or cut short a little bit. But they do like to go right up to that wire. The problem is going to be if it goes to, say, mid-May. Now we're talking, that's when the preseason starts. Training camp is in there on say, the 18th. Then you've got your that's starting. Then you've got your preseason game. You've got the draft before that on May 2nd. Like, how are you going to be, as a GM, drafting these players not knowing when or if you can sign these guys?
Yeah.
Let alone bringing guys into camp. Okay, we're going to sign you for camp. Well, we can't really because we don't have an active collective bargaining agreement.
Right. Yeah. No, it'll be very interesting. My hope is that it's kind of somewhere in between. That it's
I would love to see it in April.
That's
sure.
what I'd love to see.
You want certainty, I think, for the fans' perspective. And if I may speak for Bell Media, my employer, we'd like to know too. I mean, TSN, it's a very big part of of TSN's
big sponsor for the CFL.
Well, sure we are, and it's a very important. It's very dear to TSN. I know that from talking to our executives. They treat, and I hope that comes through to the viewers and listeners. That the CFL, yes, it's good business for TSN, obviously, or we wouldn't do it, right? It's not a charity. So it means a great deal to the network. And so I think the network we're obviously very invested in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, let's get this done, right? So, I'm looking forward though to hearing a bit more about what if there is going to be some conversation about what are the points that are getting
to me
nailed out.
What's going to be a win for both sides? They need to be able to figure out how they
got to have one that works that way.
That works so they both can win at that point. Because if it's got to be one team, one side is going to win and the other time has to lose, that's going to be really hard to get wrapped up.
I don't mind sharing this with you. I've been in contact with a couple of people that are going to be player reps and that kind of thing. I know that the players, the representatives, I should say, will have their talking points from because they've just come out of the AGM down east.
Yep.
And so from that, they now have certainly a script for people, player representatives who will be doing media interviews, doing stuff like, so that they can speak to what it is that the PA is hoping to achieve. I mean, and they kind of did. They have done that, but now because of we've got a timeline. Now we know March 11th, 12th, and beyond that. So I think you're going to see some pretty clear communication coming from the various team reps, and obviously Brian Ramsey and Jeff Keeping. That's going to be rolling out here in a few days.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah. Guess it's time to get Rammer on the phone. We better figure that out.
He can help me with my taxes too, so that's good.
Yeah, that's perfect timing. Yeah, he's very helpful that way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about we talked a little bit about CFL 2.0.
Yeah.
I listened to the BC Lions Den, the Randy's road trip. Yep. And at first I was like, oh, okay, well, they're just trying to, get like you said, get a few more eyeballs, get a few more things. But I gotta say, now maybe it's just because Randy's an excellent salesman or whatever it is.
Yep. Good businessman, yeah.
But I tell you, I had a whole new outlook on it after that, where it's like, okay, he had a great point. Where yes, you may bring that character over that opens up this whole new area of wanting to see these guys play. But also just the development side of taking a guy that's finished his CIS career here and now has more options to go play somewhere.
And
where somebody a team in Vienna is calling and saying, do you have a quarterback that can come and play?
Right.
To me, that's a whole other side of it that I'm like, I never even thought of that side, that this is not just expanding the CFL brand, but it is actually expanding the CFL football throughout the world, and what could end up helping getting more guys back here to play.
It's LinkedIn for football.
Yeah,
you know what I'm like in terms of, if I may, it's LinkedIn for football, and that's not a bad thing, because you're right. You see, what happens, there are only a finite number of jobs in pro football, even though I know there's a big factory down south that pumps out, way too many players, but anyhow, that's the nature of the beast there. But there are only so many jobs at the professional level.
Absolutely.
And way too many candidates. And often for football players, and I think even more so than hockey, when the game ends, it ends fat,
quickly,
hard, and quickly. Yes. And I remember talking to Terry Vaughn years ago, who was so great, but I always said, Terry, do you even like this? And he goes, well, just the 3.5 hours we're on the field and people are paying to see me. And the rest of the stuff I don't think he was terribly interested in. It was kind of a grind. But all of that said is, I said, would you ever do this without getting paid? And he said, no.
Yeah.
Because the game is hard. It's hard on the body. It's very demanding. But the game, you could come through a CIS program, I guess U Sports, I'm dating myself. Yeah. Anyhow, come to Canadian College, and you have a good career, and you're really very good at it, and but maybe you're not drafted, right? And it just ends. And you're not playing beer league football, man.
Yeah.
It's over, and the game stops. And isn't it neat, or wouldn't it be neat if you had a chance to go and experience and continue playing a game you love and you're very good at, and do it in another part of the world?
Well, and that's, if you look at it another way, the kids coming out of the colleges in the States, they may not know nothing about the CFL,
Right?
But
Most don't. Most don't.
They come up to try to continue their career and get film. So what would be the difference of now a Canadian guy coming out of U Sports and
he
now
goes to
going
Germany.
to Mexico to play?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, it's at least there's an opportunity for you to kind of go somewhere and try to have a bit of a professional career. I really like it.
And if it's a guy that's like, you know what, he tried out for a camp here and didn't make it. Then where's he going to go? But now if he can go to Europe and maybe after a couple of years, then he comes back here.
Yeah.
We look at players that didn't make it in the NFL that have come to Canada, and then look at Cam Wake. This is a guy that didn't do anything. There's a lot of guys. I mean, and Cam Wake's
at Duke Williams.
Exactly. Brian Mitchell.
Whatever. Yeah.
Guys that didn't.
Zylstra.
Yeah. Can't catch on with the team. Now it's the same with the Canadians. They go to Europe, maybe they play a little more, and then they can come back, and all of a sudden now you've got a quarterback who's 25, 26, and he's had a couple of years playing the game.
Yeah. And not just holding a clipboard.
Right.
Actually playing football. And,
absolutely.
Football, and I've always said this to people, this is why I'm not a big fan of preseason football or anything. That's why I will not watch the NFL Combine, okay? Because I can't believe that guys running around in shorts and tight T-shirts is football.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what
track and field.
It's track and field, right? Without the javelin or any of the,
tag.
Yeah, exactly. But,
that's what they should do, is have a giant game of tag. I'd watch that.
Yes, that with Rich Eisen in the middle of it. But no, I think that and this is it's neat to have a commissioner who's played the game. He understands that inherently. Like this, with a much respect to Jeffrey Orge, who I interviewed a couple of times, never got the feeling that he thought this was like it was just a product.
Right. Yes, I can see where you get that.
Yeah,
yes.
But Randy, and this is why guys like him have jobs like that, because they have visions. Like business visions for where this can be. Not always what it is, but what it can be.
Yeah,
and I'll give him credit on that. I was a little dubious at first, but now that I've heard him articulate it and I've seen, I go, okay. Now I understand better what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that goes back to what you were saying with even the presidency part of the Eskimos. You want that guy who has the vision and can carry stuff out, make it happen, right?
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Okay, last thing I want to touch on before we take a quick break is the Double Grey Cup announcement. First time that they've announced two at the same time. So, of course, it's going
Smart
to
plan.
Regina in 2020 and then in Hamilton in 2021. I'm actually not upset about any of that.
No.
Nope.
I wouldn't have minded it being the other way around, only because that means there's 3 Grey Cups in the West back to back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which, then does that mean there's, it's all bidding system, so I guess
But it's happened before, right? I mean, you look at 2009, 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Right.
Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver.
Right. It has. I'm just, I don't know. I'm a purist. I like going back and forth. It's kind of fun. But needless to say, I'm happy with both of them going. I actually already have a hotel room in Regina, so
you're a
so
smart
I can
man.
actually get into.
We're in the same hotel.
I know, it's fantastic.
Trouble.
Yeah, and I know
Smart.
if we're in the same hotel, it's never. It's going to be a lot of late nights.
Yep.
But I hope actually to get to see the stadium prior to that. But I'm excited to watch. I think a Grey Cup game in that new stadium will be amazing. I'm excited about that.
Oh, for
I
sure.
think that would be great. And getting back to Hamilton, I've waited for that for a long time. So I can't wait to get back to watch a game there.
I wasn't with the Eskimos the last time the game was played in Hamilton. I think that had the nylons at halftime.
Yeah.
On the back of a pickup truck in a snowstorm.
It did. It also had the Eddie Brown
the shoestring catch.
And the fumble.
It was a fumble.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Doug Flutie even goes and goes, oh yeah, totally a fumble.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's good that he outed himself on that, eh? Like, good on him. But, yeah, and Hamilton loves its football, right?
Absolutely.
And they just haven't had a stadium sufficient, frankly. I mean, Ivor Wynne, and I was there. I haven't been to the new building, but I certainly know the old one very well.
Yeah.
And that that just wasn't appropriate. You could not hold a national championship in a building like the old Ivor Wynne.
Right.
I'm glad that it's going back there. That is a city that is, hey, there's a reason that Hall of Fame is there. I mean, you may want it moved somewhere else, but football lives in that city.
That's one of the things I'm looking most forward to, actually, is seeing the new Hall of Fame. I've been to the old one. I've been to Ivor Wynne. I've never been to the Donut Box.
Well, and this gives them time to even spruce it up even more.
If you haven't listened already, listen to the latest Podski Wee Wee podcast. Yeah. They talk about it, and they say this isn't your daddy's Hamilton anymore.
No,
they've built more hotels. Yeah. There's more close-by hotels as well as not just Hamilton.
Right.
So there's going to be plenty of accommodations. Great for me. My sister lives there, so I've got a place to stay. So outstanding.
Yeah. May I recommend Emma's back porch if it's still there in Burlington? When the Eskimos, when we would have to go back to back. Let's just say that yours truly finished more than a couple of nights at Emma's back porch.
Fantastic.
And one, never mind. I was with Rick Warman one night, and let's just say it was a late night. And that's where I saw Fred Perry when we came back after he broke, and I know I've told the story in the previous one where Fred broke his foot, and we came back and we'd gone to Emma's back porch, surprise, surprise, after a game, and we had to overnight there, and then we were going, anyway, we were back at I think the Holiday Inn in Burlington, and there was Fred as we walked back up, and I remember we were sort of not staggering, but we were not quite ourselves, and there was Fred sitting by himself in the dark with a cigarette with his foot, broken badly, up on the bench. And Fred, good evening. Yeah, gentlemen, it was one of those. I'll leave you to your cigarette, and I will try and find my room. Good night, Mr. Perry. My room, and have a good night, Mr. Perry. Yeah, exactly. You didn't see me, and I didn't see you.
On the other hand, that sounds like a Grey Cup story in the making. Here we go in Hamilton.
Yes, let's hope.
Yeah. All right, let's take a really quick break, and then we were going to come back with lots more stories from Jaimo, and of course, the return of the Esks history moment.
This is Trevor Harris, and you're listening to the Eskimos Empire Podcast.
The Eskimo Empire Podcast is brought to you by United Construction Company. As a full-service commercial general contractor, United Construction Company serves large and small-scale commercial, light industrial, and multifamily residential construction projects across Western Canada. UCC is a relationship-focused builder, forming a trust and respect that is at the forefront of their commitment to quality, value, and integrity. Visit their website at unitedconstruction.ca to find out more and support them as they support the Empire.
Get loud for me. Get loud for me. Get loud for me. Hands in the crowd, we tearing it down.
You can join the Empire online.
Find us at eskempire.ca.
Check out all the new blogs and then follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
For more history, follow at Esks History on Twitter.
And even more of my pics on Esk Empire Photo.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to help the pod grow. Thanks again for listening. Let's get back to the show. We're back, and it is time for our favorite little part by Superfan. It is the Eskimo History Moment.
Let's hear you cheer and holler for a mighty famous team. Let's hear you roar, you know what, for a team that's on the beat. Our voices rise up to the skies, the fans are glad to scream. We love those Eskimos.
Welcome back to the Esks History Moment. This week, it's March 4th, but in 1986, it marked a big changing the guard in Eskimos history. 33 years ago this week, Norm Kimball left the Eskimos after nearly 20 years in the GM position to join the newly renamed Montreal Alouettes, previously the Concords, as president and chief operating officer. His absence left a huge void in the green and gold offices. Kimball was instrumental in building the dynasty team during the decade of excellence from 1973 through 82, working with U.S. Scout Ray Newman and Canadian Scout Frankie Morris. Kimball was a tough negotiator, to say the least, but by all accounts was able to build a perennial winner in Edmonton. His loss would be keenly felt. He was responsible for hiring head coaches Ray Yock, Hugh Campbell, and Jack Parker, who had brought and maintained respectability across the league for the Eskimos. The search for the next general manager lasted exactly 2 weeks, and on March 18th, A man who was very familiar to the green and gold faithful and us all, returned after only a 3.5-year absence, Hugh Campbell. Campbell had left the head coaching ranks after the 1982 season to join the LA Express of the upstart USFL that had begun in 1983, and after 1 year made the jump to the NFL, heading up the Houston Oilers, where he was reunited with the quarterback he had known for 7 years, Warren Moon. Campbell's return ignited the Eskimos, who went back to the Grey Cup game for the first time since Gluey Huey left. While they lost that game, they returned the following year for the 75th Grey Cup and won in a back-and-forth battle against the Toronto Argonauts. This game marked an incredible and improbable streak. Hugh Campbell had been in the CFL for a total of 14 years at that point between 1963 and 87, and after those first 3 years, had gone to the Grey Cup game an astounding 11 consecutive times, only missing time when he was no longer in the CFL. Campbell had the enviable position of having 3 outstanding quarterbacks in 1987, starter Matt Dunnigan, backup Damon Allen, and rookie third-string quarterback Tracy Ham. Campbell did the unthinkable and sent his all-star starting quarterback to the BC Lions. Hey, that sounds familiar somehow.
Weird.
But his return stalked the Eskimos for years to come. He managed to parlay a starting quarterback that we could afford to lose into receiver Jim Sandusky for the 1988 season, followed by defensive back Andre Francis, all-star defensive end Greg Stumon, linebacker Jeff Braswell, running back Reggie Taylor, and BC's first-round pick in the 1989 entry draft, where he selected defensive end Leroy Blue.
How'd that turn out?
That turned out all right. Now, to be fair, BC did go to the Grey Cup that first year with Dunnigan at the helm, but 1989, with the 6 players acquired for Dunnigan, saw the Eskimos set a still CFL record, going 16-2 to end the season. To this date, no other CFL team has ever had as many wins in a year.
And the only year they canceled the Grey Cup.
That must have been.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Campbell brought in his good friend and former teammate Ron Lancaster for the 1991 season, and they continued as a team for the next 6 years as head coach and GM tandem until the 1997 season. After 97, Lancaster, of course, left for the Tiger Cats, along with a couple of Campbell's acquisitions, Danny McManus and Darren Flutie, and Hugh left the GM chair after 12 years to become president and CEO of the Eskimos, a position he held for 8 more years before finally retiring. What started out as a period of anxiety, despair, and panic for many followers of the team turned into a renaissance where the team reached unparalleled heights. While we lost a future Hall of Fame man at the top 33 years ago, we ended up seeing a legacy continue as yet another great Esks history moment.
Going for a touchdown. Going for a touchdown. Going for a touchdown. We love those Eskimos.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Well done. And that really,
that kind of hits home at this particular moment.
There is a lot of parallels there.
No
kidding.
Yeah. Holy man.
It's funny hearing you talk about Ron Lancaster's arrival. Mm-hmm. I came in 98. Obviously, Ron had gone. And
just left.
Man, I wish I'd got a chance to work with him.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's just knowing that, and I was very fortunate, obviously, to work for Hugh Campbell. He hired me.
Sure.
And meet Jackie Parker and spend a fair bit of time around Jack and get to know legends. But there was something for me about Ron Lancaster because growing up in Vancouver, obviously, and going to Lions games and being really aware of Ron Lancaster, the little general and all of that stuff. Wow. And just to be, and what I heard about him, and I met him on many occasions, but listening to Dwayne Mandrusiak talk about Ron, and I just thought, God, I really would have liked to have been, working alongside that gentleman.
Yeah, I bet.
And that, so it was, it's just neat to hear that bit of history there. And, obviously I know where the story went from, starting with Kay Stevenson and David Archer.
Oh my. Maybe we don't need to talk about that part, but I'm
at least he didn't put you through a table.
Because exactly. You did, you talked a bit about it on the Periscope. You talked about working with Hugh Campbell.
Yes.
Who, I mean, in this room, he is part of the Eskimo Trinity. I don't know if you know about that. It's,
no, I don't, but I can imagine. And if there's a franchise, frankly, and here I am, like I'm an Eskimo, even though, now I'm at TSN. I mean, I'm always going to be.
Once an Eskimo,
yeah,
always
exactly.
an Eskimo.
Then he should be, and there should be a Trinity. I probably have some names. Who's on the Trinity? Hugh.
The Trinity would be Hugh,
Jack,
and Warren Moon.
Oh, that works.
That is the.
I mean, you could make a Trinity for.
Well, you could do a Mount
decades.
Rushmore, obviously, which would feel a lot like Wall of Honor, but.
That's a tough one.
It is. Yeah.
I was going to say, okay, let's have some fun. Name 4. Give me your Mount Rushmore's 4, right?
Yeah,
that's how
Mount
I'm really
Rushmore's
good at
4.
US
I mean,
stuff.
you can't not have Jack Parker.
No.
To me, Warren Moon has to be on there.
Sure.
And Hugh Campbell has to be on there.
But I mean, you have to have some other guys in there. Like, how do you not have Gizmo?
I was just
going to
go
have
with
Dan
Giz.
Kepley.
I see now. I 100% agree with you that I can see where Gizmo has to be on there.
Has to be.
They're still trying to replace him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm not joking. Like we used to have a joke. We're like, holy Christ, can we not replace Giz? Like, yes, I know Donnie Ashley and Winston October, all those guys tried, but the idea that like still years later, you're still looking for the singular guy at that position. And they had a little bit of success, but nobody.
No, I agree. I agree.
You need a defensive guy.
I'll put Gizmo on there. Okay. But how do you not put Campbell on for the amount of architecture that he did with this team? Like, I think you can't get away from Hugh. Now, who do you replace? I have no idea. Can we add a fifth head just for fun?
Why not?
Like a trident, like a serpent.
Funny.
One of those.
You've talked about being in BC and everything else. Yeah. People that have been to either BC Place or before, I guess it's just always been a BC Place, they have their Ring of Honor.
Yes, they do.
On there. And unlike Edmonton, they actually have non-players on there. They have coaches.
Which they should,
they have teams.
If I may.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, not having Hugh Campbell on the wall where people
he's
can
listed
see it.
As a contributor.
I know, but it's not on the wall. They're on the ring.
And do you remember at Commonwealth, and I don't know if that wall is still there now, it's above, and it just had all the names of the people that took part in the Pan Am Games,
right.
and also had like plaques for contributors. Mm-hmm. Like nobody ever saw it.
Nope.
And I remember when I was there, I said, we've got to rehabilitate these. Like they look terrible. No one sees them. And why isn't he on the wall?
Like, well, exactly. Yeah, why isn't he on the wall?
Because
I agree.
Another guy that's going to have to go on the wall, and if you asked him, he would say, no way in hell I'm ever going on the wall, is Dwayne Mandrusiak.
Well, Dwayne
he retires,
absolutely goes on the wall.
I mean, you could literally put him on the wall.
Well,
I'm just saying.
No.
Because he's going to want to be buried there.
Is George Hopkins up in Calgary?
He is in Calgary. He's started the year after.
And Cato is
started in 80 in BC.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. Dwayne, yes, we'll listen to your opinion, and I know it's not about you.
Yep.
But I would override that, and I would say no. That gentleman goes on the Wall of Honor because I refer to Dwayne as the keeper of the flame, and through the good times, and there've been lots of good, and through the not very good times, what has remained constant? Mm-hmm. That the Eskimos in that particular facet. And it's not just about getting 42 guys in matching pants and helmets.
No.
There's a whole thing that happens behind the scenes that speaks to excellence. It speaks to what's expected of players that walk through the doors at Commonwealth Stadium. And there's one guy that oversees all of that who's been there for all that time. And to me, like I said on my last day when they were saying nice things about me, at the Eskimos and giving me things that I probably didn't deserve, was that I learned more about football from watching Dwayne Mandrusiak do his job than I'd learned from anybody else. And I worked with Don Matthews and Hugh Campbell, just because if you chose to pay attention, you learned how to relate to players. Mm-hmm. You learned how to act in a dressing room where they'd had a very disappointing loss. You knew how to act when, and again, by watching Dwayne. Like I just sort of absorbed, and he probably didn't know, nor did he have the time to be teaching me lessons, but occasionally it'd be like, hey, you might want to do this. And it just, the level of care, I just don't know, how you would replace that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I don't think that there's a player that's gone through that locker room in the time that he's been there that
48 years.
That wouldn't say that he's one of the best parts of being an Eskimo.
Oh,
is having that relationship. They all call him Pops. Like he is everybody's dad. Like,
can I tell my Tony Burst story?
Yes.
Okay.
Do. Yes.
Okay. So Tony. Tony. This is a great segue. So Tony Burst, a big running back, fullback, whatever we were calling him, but Tony was just a bull, and he was just a huge brute of a man. He played for the San Antonio Texans. I think he used to block for Pringle down in Sacramento for a bit of time. I know Troy Mills did, but I'm not sure. Anyhow, so Burst, I get there in '98. Burst is there. Tony Burst came in one day, and he just had on the yellow workout shorts, a t-shirt. He was huge, like a muscled, like just a big and a great guy, but obviously intimidating to look at. And I look down, and again, it's my first year, so all of this, I'm still trying to figure out the vibe of the room and what can you kid about, and you got to be there for a while until you can they trust you.
Sure.
And, you get. Yeah. And he walks in one day, and this is in the old room, and I'm like, oh my God, Jesus, he's got a gun. And I'm like, and I try to sort of act cool. And Tony comes in, and he's had I'm going to approximate his drawl, and I won't do it well. And he go, can a black man get a cup of coffee, D? And I'm standing at the window where Dwayne sat at a desk, and he in his room, and he'd be like polishing a helmet or putting a decal on or fixing a face mask or whatever. And you go, D, can a black man get a cup of coffee? And Dwayne, without flinching, goes, yeah, a black man can get a cup of coffee, but not if he's carrying a handgun. And he's like, come on, D, I'm just kidding you. And it was a fake, but it looked like it was a replica handgun in the back. And it was like, wow, okay. Now, this isn't quite like Ralph Staten and the gun he had in the Ravens dressing room. This at least was a fake, but it was just like, I love that. Yes, he can get a cup of coffee. And it was like Dwayne had seen that every day. Guys coming with handguns looking for coffee. And it was great. It was just great.
Every time we talk to Dwayne, he always has a great story for us that we're like
about everything.
Wow. Do you have a good story about Dwayne?
In the 14 years I was there, and he may say differently and go, but he made one mistake. And he did not pack Ed Hervey's jersey for a game in Regina.
Oh.
And Ed wore number 6 that night. And so I go in the room, and Dwayne, he beats himself up if it's not perfect. Right?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
And that's what drives the best to keep, on top of their game. And so I'm in the room, and, he learned it pretty early. He's unpacking the stuff, and it's like, damn it, where's 81? So, I come down, and I'm like, I'm looking at Ed. They're going out for early outs, and he's in, what's he doing? Because sometimes guys go out in jerseys and aren't there. Certainly the linemen and stuff, they're getting their stuff taped, and they get their tape down on their pads, and so they go out. I'm like, what is he doing in 6? And Dwayne goes, you better tell Halsey and the TSN guys Hervey's going to have to wear a different number. I'm like, whoa. Like, what happened? He's like, I didn't pack it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, happens. Yeah. But as he's explaining it to Ed has a great sense of humor, but on game day, like a lot of players, not a lot of kidding around there, but Dwayne's pulling it on him, and he's telling him, he's like, hey, Ed, I don't have your jersey, okay? So this is on me. I owe you or whatever. And he's putting it on, and he goes, single digit, Ed. It's quite slimming on you. Yeah. You look much slimmer. And I am like, fuck. And Ed had that look of, he was good about it, but, and not that Ed was a thick man, muscular, but it was like the single digit is very slimming on you, as if to say, you ought to think about going to a single digit, right? It was just, I love that. He went out there. I can't remember how he played, but I remember having to. Ed Hervey will now be wearing number 6 for tonight's game. So make sure that you're not calling out, I don't know, Jason Beulah or something.
Exactly. Right? I love the. I just find the positive, right? Well, it's very slimming.
It's very slimming. Yes, I love the way he sold that to him.
It's very I love that. Now, you were telling me that you were telling me about Gizmo in the locker room, and that he had some adventures in there, especially with names.
Again, this is really from Dwayne, but I mean, I'm viewing all of this, and Giz retired in 99 or 2000. 2000, that's right. And we did the big send-off and the final, game for him and all that stuff. But Giz did a lot of finger pistols. Hey, buddy. Okay. And one day I went by, and Dwayne said, and Giz would often come in, certainly near the end of his career, wearing like golf cleats. Great golfer, really good golfer, and he was, at the end, I mean, he was out working on his golf game as much as he was his football game. Anyhow, right. So, and one day, and I guess Dwayne knew Giz's thing, like that he didn't really get to know guys' names. Like he would just a lot of, hey buddy, hey dude, and so Dwayne started going, who's that guy over there? And she's like, come on, D. And they're like, no, who's that guy over there? It might be like Jim Cooper or somebody. Right. And you're like, no, tell me his name. And he's like, well, 37 or whatever. And he just give no, that's his number. What is the young man's name? Because he's an Eskimo, Henry, and you should know this. And then he'd go make it hard on him. He'd go like, who's the, the number 3 athletic therapist that we just brought in from? And he'd go, that guy over there who's helping you with your hamstring. Know his name? And it was great. Like his just seemingly knew, like, I don't know, Leo Groenewegen, Chris Morris, probably knew Sean Fleming. Yeah. And, that was
That's
it. Like,
about it.
Yeah.
Jed Roberts, because he's been around forever.
And there was guys do much better Giz impressions, but there was also and there were named like Amalama, and you go, what is Henry saying with Amalama? And Jed Roberts go, well, that's ambulance. Well, what do you mean Amalama is ambulance? And then G-Jet. And when Henry would say G-Jet, and you go, what do you mean Jeet Jet? What is that? And Jed would go, what he's saying is, did you eat yet? Jeet Jet. And I'm like, okay, yeah, all right.
I think the lip reader.
Yeah.
Jed having the hearing.
Yeah, Jed would just, and it's like, oh, hold on a minute. You're deaf. Henry's doing whatever he's doing with the language over here. Hold on, how is any of this working? It's like, I'm amazed we break the huddle. Some days you go, I'm amazed we break the huddle with everyone going, okay, you got it?
I like this.
I'm looking at my wristband and I'm going, okay, you understand. I don't know what you're even thinking over there.
And I don't know what your name is, so who matters?
Yeah, I was like, how does this
work?
That way. Yeah. Hey, buddy, you go that way. Okay.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Need to have
man, dude.
Yes, man, dude. Yeah.
I'm going to be using that for a while.
Yes.
I have a feeling. All right, last one that I wanted to touch on for a good story. So Jason Johnson.
Yes.
Has a radio gig.
Yep.
Yes. And a good one. He was good.
He was good.
Yeah. He lost that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He did. It's funny. I just ran into Jason at Grey Cup. He was in town.
Oh, awesome!
And he came to town with his wife Christy Chorley, who's a on-air host down in Seattle. And Jason is now very talented, smart guy, like hyper smart, super energetic, and he's now producing and directing. I should say directing documentaries for like HBO and ESPN, and so he's really gone on to some great stuff. I don't know if you guys ever remember the doc that he shot, the mini doc on the 3 quarterbacks, Moss, Ray, and
got on DVD.
And it was really well done. So clearly you knew that he had chops and had vision. So Jason gets the radio gig, and and anybody who interacted with him for 20 seconds knew that this was a guy. He's not going to give you cliches. He's really funny. He's smart, and smart not just about football. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got a worldview, and so
he knows who people's names are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And so I can't remember. I think I talked to the program director at 630 CHED, Sid Smith, and I think his name came up around, Jason Johnson. I'm hearing good stuff about this guy, and would there be some interest in the show? And I think Johnson had come to me and say, I'd really like to get on the radio, because he'd done some hits, and it was pretty obvious that this guy could carry conversation. So he gets a show. Like, I don't think we had a coach's show at the time, if I'm trying to think back to them. But so there was our guy, and he would have teammates on, and I think we even used to get, guys that he played with, and I seem to recall some NFL guys going on the show, and it was really well done. Anyhow, we're trundling along, and it's all good, and I think we're probably winning and doing whatever it is we're doing. And then it got a little rocky, not for the content of the show, but one night in BC, old Jay, 2 J's, is out there. He's the holder. He's the holder on the field goal attempt. Yeah. And he didn't stop it spinning, and the laces weren't out, and we missed the critical field goal. And so as we're coming off the field, and Danny Machocha is hot. And he pulls me aside after we get through the post-game stuff, and he is pissed, some kind of pissed at the holder, right? Never a great thing. Kicker takes the heat. And
you never notice him until...
But clearly, on that particular one, it was the holder. So somehow Danny needed to take out his wrath, and he was going to take it first on me, which was fine, and Danny and I loved working with him, and I think he liked working with me. So, but it was... He goes... That's it for that goddamn radio show. And I'm thinking, oh no. Okay, so, it was really good, and we talked earlier about the marketing of the team. I mean, having one of your players who was really good having a show was so good. It was just so easy, and it worked. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding? And he's like, yeah, and make it happen. Like, end it, right? So I'm like, oh, God, okay, so... I got to go talk to Johnson first. I go, look, I think Coach wants this thing, over. And he's like, what? Because I missed a hold? Like, he's looking and asking the question I would. Like, really? We're connecting my 45-minute gig on a Tuesday to what I did on a Saturday at BC Place? Like, what's the connection? It's just like, and rightly so. Johnson would be that guy that would say, stand up and go, what? Are you kidding? I'm like, Jason, I'm not telling you this for me. Exactly. I'm just delivering the shitty message from the coach who's hot, and I don't want to go back in there and get another orifice reamed, so just play along with me. Then I got to make the call to the station. I'm like, hey, guys, I know you really liking this Jason Johnson thing.
We all do.
I think he was doing it for gift certificates or something. Like, it was just like, hey, Tony Romas, like that kind of Romas, I should say, not Romo. And so it was just one of those fun things. It starts out fun, and then it gets. And then it wasn't so fun again
until you miss a punt.
But he even raised it a Grey Cup. He's like, yeah, I remember that, and I lost it because of that hold in BC. I said, yeah, I remember the hold in BC. I was like, oh.
I remember having to be
the guy, remember our conversations, and you looking at me like, I had 3 eyes in the middle of my head, Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, the stories from back then. I love it. And actually, at some point, we should get Jason on to talk about these things. Because
you won't have enough space. I'm serious, man. Because he's had a really, he was in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills. He was here, obviously. But he was always a guy, just because of his personality, that I always thought, in a good way, was passing through. Because you knew he was going on to do something cool.
Right. Oh, okay.
This wasn't going to be a guy that, would go off and just be kind of ordinary. Like, he would be an interesting, because he's just like that. He's like one of those guys, like, he'd be, oh, hey, we had a bye week or whatever it was, and I was in LA and you're like, what? Kevin Lefsford's going to Viking on the bye week, and where are you? How did you just spend 5 days? And it was always, and he was always reading. Just again, one of those guys you just knew when you met him, this wasn't an ordinary dude.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's so awesome. Well, we could probably do this all night, but
hey,
but Dave,
you got a show to edit.
I really, really appreciate you coming in and telling stories with us and talking football with us. We love when you're here. It's outstanding. Tell everyone where they find you on Twitter and on radio and all these things so that we can catch up with you more.
All right, TSN 1260. I do the noon to 2 show. That is Mountain Time. If you're listening to this outside of the Mountain Time Zone, I'm also the assistant program director, which doesn't mean anything to anybody. But anyhow, all of that said, at Jamieson 1260 is where you can find me on Twitter. And I don't tweet a lot. Like, I don't do sort of the hot take, fire out wild opinions on stuff. I kind of like, quirky, weird things. It's not always CFL. It's not always Oilers but you can reach me there if you want to get into anything you might want to get into. And, I love sports and I treat it seriously. I sometimes wish we didn't treat it as seriously, but I understand the nature of what I do now. It'd be nice if we had a few more laughs in all of this. I mean, and you probably, because, we've done a few of these. Mm-hmm. I loved, and this is the thing that I take away from my time in the CFL, is the people and the stories, which sounds terribly trite, but as soon as I got into the job, I went and I looked around the room and I go, I can't imagine where I would meet this collection of people in any other line of work. And I've said this maybe before to you guys, but where you could look over here and go, Carlo Pinero, surgeon in training at that point, Rob LeBlanc over there from McGill, and now, God, he's doing great things, I'm sure, somewhere in the world. And then you go around the room and just like the different people and how all of that would come together, 18, 20, 22 times, 23 times over the course of the year to do good things, hopefully, on the football field. Yeah. And you just go, how is this happening? It just, like the kid who grew up in Alberta playing with the guy who went to Nebraska. Yeah. And somehow all of this kind of works. And it was funny. There was lots of humor, and some of it, I can't repeat. No, but in more sensitive times, there were. I hope that the room is still as funny as I found it to be. I hope it is, because that's, people talk about players. Man, I miss the room. Yeah, because it just can't be replicated in other parts of life. Yeah. Sometimes for good. Sometimes for good. Yeah, I understand that.
No
handgun for coffee, you mean? That doesn't happen in the regular world.
Exactly.
It doesn't happen in my office.
No,
but that makes it's special, and it makes it memorable. And that's I've got a lot of really good, memorable moments, hopefully, funny anecdotes that others seem to enjoy. But that was my life for 14 years, and I like telling it because it brings people a lot of joy, because it's somewhere they can't go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was fortunate to be able to go there, and that was my world for a long time. And so, if I hopefully I'm not hurting anyone's feelings by telling these stories, but that they get a chuckle out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we love you, and you're welcome here.
Back at you. I love the work you guys do, and
thank you.
You're keep doing this, and I know the network that you're involved in. All of the people that do this on behalf. I say it on behalf of their teams, but it's really from a place of deep love.
Yeah,
you love the Eskimos. You love the people doing the Lion stuff. Man, they live that team, and you guys do, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it's and it's fun too. We don't often get to have fun chats like this. Yeah. We love it. So
good.
We do this every week. They were good.
Yeah, especially after some games, it's just like
we'll bring you in here after a loss one time. See you can talk me off the wall, because I try to. I can have some fun with that too.
Yes.
A whiskey and a whiskey.
I've gotten better. Yeah. All right. Superfan, where does everybody find you?
You can find me at 56 Parkies on Twitter. That's probably the best spot. There's lots of football talk, and of course,
Yeah, and add Esks history, because this history segment they're getting better every week. I love it.
Yeah, the history stuff, and let me tip my glass here, and we go, of course, green and gold Eskimo branded glass in your direction. That Eskimo history stuff, and because of our connection, that makes me smile when I see that logo come up, and I go, oh wow. On this day, right? On this day.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just one of those things I've always just loved in general, and it's just kind of fun. And someone said, well, we should tell people about this on Twitter. It's nice and short.
Yes.
Put a little thing, and
we're lucky to have you.
Well,
so it's
thanks.
awesome. We're also, of course, lucky to usually have Duchess Lombardi here.
Yep.
So follow her on Twitter. You can follow me at Freepalicious, and of course the show at Esk Empire Pod. Thank you again, of course, to our sponsor, United Construction Company, and check out their website at unitedconstruction.ca. You down with UCC?
Yeah, you know me.
Lovely. Make sure that you find all of our social channels, which you can find all the links on eskempire.ca. We'll be back in 2 weeks and hopefully try to get a SPEP-isode in there in the middle there. We'll see if we can sneak one in there. I guess the big question is are we ready to hear some positive progression on the CBA and get towards more live football? Absolutely. For Jaimo, Commissioner Kayla, and Superfan Mike, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you in a couple weeks.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.